Up next, we have Victoria in Louisiana.
Hello, Victoria.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. So, this is my question. Our 8-year-old son is kind, loving, and socially observant. He is also very sensitive, especially in regards to his appearance and his performance. He is taller and heavier than his siblings and most peers, and has been called fat by a few friends. How can we as parents encourage a healthy lifestyle, knowing when or if to focus on weight without creating an eating disorder or hyperfixation on his outward appearance?
Well, I guess some of the discussion that we already had is relevant with regards to stabilization of diet, is that moving your family's eating pattern to a lower carbohydrate load would be useful. And your comment with the last questioner was that this has to be a family affair. And I believe that's the case, because eating is a communal activity. And
You don't want to isolate a
yeah,
kid.
and
And just cutting processed foods can make a big difference. If you just focus on a lot of meat, fruit, and vegetables, try to get rid of the grains and processed foods, that'll probably help him out. And I wouldn't say, again, that it's his fault. We're kind of set up in society right now to eat hyperpalatable foods. And most people, if weight gain doesn't hit them young, it hits them eventually.
well,
Nobody
it's
escapes
also
it
the case.
unless they have a low-carb
Well,
diet,
we
really.
also know that there are radical individual differences in the degree to which people pack on weight. So, for example, Pacific Islanders, island people have gone through periods of food deprivation, their cultures, very radically in their evolutionary history. And so island people tend to pack on weight like mad. And so the Polynesians, for example, on a North American diet, they just balloon out in no time flat. And so there is wide individual variability in the proclivity to put on weight. And it is very important. I really do think it's crucial to stop making it a issue of lack of willpower or morality. First of all, you can't fight your hunger. Good luck with that. Your hunger will win. So if you're on a diet and you're not satiated, you're going to cheat, or when you stop the diet, you'll return to your old eating habits. You have to change the way you eat. And that's very difficult and it's very radical, but it's unbelievably useful. And then I would also say he's sensitive about his appearance, more sensitive than normal. That's the other issue.
Maybe he's
So
conscientious.
it's possible.
That might be a good thing.
It might be a good thing, and it might be a consequence of some higher levels of negative emotion as well. And so what would I do with someone who's more sensitive than he was 8? Was that right? Sorry.
He's 8.
He's 8, yeah.
Mhm.
I guess this is one way of inoculating people against typical bullying responses, is to work out a description of all the bullying tricks and phrases, and to have the person develop a defense for them. Right? So
Something jokey.
yeah, something jokey, but at least to expose yourself to it. Like if someone calls you fat,
So
for
at least
example,
I have a brain.
Right. What should your response be? Your son needs help developing strategies for dealing with the most common bullying situations and phrases. And you'll have to get from him what people say that hurts his feelings, and then you'll have to work with him to develop strategies of verbal response or attitude that help him prevail in the face of that. Now, what you don't want him to do is to get down on himself, to isolate, to be irritable, to cry or lash out, because that'll just amplify the bullying. Like what bullies do, first of all, we should understand that every child gets bullied on the basis of their peculiarities. And so if you don't have any obvious aberration in your appearance, well, the bullies will just make one up. They'll give you a nickname that's derisive, or they'll come up with something that's like a rhyme on your name. Like they're going to find something, and what they're looking for is an emotional reaction. Like in the bully victim literature, you see that there are stable bullies and there are stable bully victims. And the stable bully victim boys tend to respond emotionally when they're picked on. If they can develop a like a defensive strategy, say, and humor can be very useful in that regard.
Or just pretending you aren't bothered.
Yeah,
that's a simple one.
Better even than pretending is to practice not being bothered to the point where you're actually not bothered. Because what the bully wants is a reaction, and he'll go around poking at people till he finds someone that reacts, and then that's the person that gets picked on. So your son needs to be trained in resilience. And one of the things you might even try with him is to make a list of the insults and the insults that have been used against him and the insults that he's afraid of, and practice delivering them to him so that he can learn to be resilient in their presence.
Oof.
Yeah. You can do that. You can do that with his cooperation, though.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if someone calls you fat? What should you do? Do you want to get upset? Like, how does that work for you if you get upset? Does that help? Yeah. Well, they hurt my feelings. It's like, well...
Pretend they don't is a good place to start.
Well, practice acting as if they don't. So, see, because the pretending, there's an element of deception in there. There can be an element of self-deception in that.
Though, when you, it's hard to... you got bullied, right? You talked all the time.
Well, everybody gets bullied. Everybody gets bullied.
But some people are bullied more than others.
Yes, they certainly are.
They're usually the ones that show weakness, honestly.
They're the ones who respond emotionally. Yeah, and so practicing stoicism in the face of provocation is a useful strategy, and you can help your child learn to do that. Yeah. When
this is a funny story.
Yeah.
Kindergarten, I think, you told us, go find the biggest kid in the class and punch him. And he said this, weren't you in front of other parents?
Oh yeah, they were shocked. No, I think you find the biggest, ugliest kid in the classroom and then hit him on the back of the head with a toy.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's way more in depth and specific.
Well, it was a joke, obviously.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I know you didn't do that.
But in grade 2, this girl came out of the bathroom. I remember I was standing against the wall, leaning against the wall, and kicked me.
Yeah.
Just random grade 2 girl.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I kicked her back as hard as I could.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was the interaction. And she was the bully, right? It was like, kick.
Yeah.
Kick harder.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, not going to kick you anymore.
Right,
Go kick somebody else.
Right. Well, there is some real utility also in helping your children learn to defend themselves and to discussing very carefully with them the conditions under which they are allowed to or also morally required to defend themselves, or sometimes to defend other people. Yeah, and so you need a philosophy of that. So if someone is picking on you, if someone hits you and you're a kid, well, what's the right response? Well, the people who are anti-violence, let's say, is you should go tell a teacher. It's like, do you remember what it's like to be a kid? Going to tell the teacher, that can be social suicide, right? Because it indicates to the bullies in particular that you can't handle your own affairs, and that you'll rat them out. That's not good. Mm-hmm.
Although I do think pretending or actually just being unaffected by it, like, I don't care what you say.
Yes.
Like, that'll deter a bully.
Yes. They're not
interested in bothering someone that's like,
So Dan Olweus, who's a Scandinavian expert on bullying, and he reduced the incidence of bullying in Scandinavia by about 50%. So he's quite, and there's a book which you could take a look at, everybody who's listening, called Bullying, What We Know and What We Can Do About It. Pretty blunt book. Yeah. Olweus did the best analysis of bullies. He thought of them as prototypical fascists, which was why he was concerned with them, and I think that that's correct. Olweus's analysis of the bully dynamic is dead on. And one of the things he also helped schools, parents, and children work through is the conditions under which you are allowed to seek adult authority if you're a child. So his definition of bullying was that bullying was aggression utilized when there was a mismatch in power. So if there's two kids of approximately equal physical size and stature, let's say in development, and they're having an altercation, that's not bullying. Bullying is when there's 3 10-year-olds against an 8-year-old, right? There's clear imbalance of power. And then if you observe that as a child, you have the moral right to intervene on behalf of the person who's being bullied with an adult. mostly because you're serving the cause of justice. And so Olmius wasn't one of these dim-witted, like hyper-agreeable social worker type interveners who thinks all violence is wrong. It's like, that's actually not true. Violence in defense of yourself or of your principles or of someone weaker is often admirable. And your children have to learn how to think that through. And your response, for example, when you got kicked, what would we say? In the ideal, there'd be no violence. It's like, well, that's not real helpful when your daughter's...
I wasn't talking that girl out of kicking me.
Right.
She just randomly kicked me.
Well, of course you weren't. Of course you weren't.
Yeah.
And so that stopped it. And you and I, and Julian as well, like I practiced teaching you how to punch so that you could throw a punch. And we discussed the times when that was necessary, right? So you remember that?
I do indeed. It hurt. I had arthritis.
Yeah, right.
Everything hurt.
Yeah.
Childhood was very sad. Every time I talk about it with my husband, he's like, it's like bowling. Yeah, I used to bowl. My thumb used to get stuck in the bowling ball. It's like, why is everything you say depressing? It's like, well, it's funny now.
You're actually a remarkably happy child. So, yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Partly thanks to you, I'm sure.